Yes, I can hear you.
How about that? We good to go, Cody? So we're on? Hey, everybody. Let me bring to you, this is our first live at 5. This is our first attempt. So if it's working, cool. If not, I'm not sure. But I've got my awesome man, Tony, here from Superfly. Just an awesome, epic photographer, great dreamer, following his dreams, even through the COVID, just kind of pushing stuff. Tony, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Mate, seriously, I really appreciate you guys bringing me on. I know we've met before and we've had a really cool sort of interview prior on our Superfly channel. And, you know, I'm humbled that you can bring me on your first show. And yeah, thanks again for bringing me on.
Well, you're the perfect one to have on because you're another dreamer like me. We kind of push what we're trying to do. And, you know, we can't stop.
No, I agree. You have to keep going no matter what goes on right now. Absolutely.
So let's give them a little backstory on like who you are. So
okay, so where do you want me to start? I mean, right back. I can start right back if you like.
Yeah, as far back as you want to go.
Okay, so I'm half French and English. I live in London, where I was born in England and then raised in the south of France, where half of my family is till I was 5 years old. Then I moved back to England in about 1985, and my parents kept both sides of my language going, so I'm fluent French and English. And as I lived in England, it was quite a tough time growing up because obviously being a French guy at the time, you don't speak English. There was a lot of crap going on. I was bullied by it as a kid. But then I found refuge in video games and cars. And so what happened with this is that through growing up, I ended up really chasing the passion, playing lots of video games, the Sega Mega Drives and Nintendos and all this kind of stuff. And then I had obviously the posters on the wall, the Lamborghini Countach, the white one was one on my wall. And I used to collect all the different kind of Hot Wheels and die-cast cars that I could have. And then literally, as I went to university, I fell into cars through magazines just like Fast Car Magazine, Max Power Magazine, which most people may know in England. There were two of the biggest car magazines in the UK. And from then, it was just strange. I saw this magazine. I thought, you know what? I'd love to customize a car one day. And my dream back then, when I was about 16 years old, was to have my car featured in a car magazine. And so what I did is I bought probably one of the most awkwardest cars you could ever have, a car that no one would have at the time. And what I would do is actually customize a car that was so unusual, and I would go against everything else everyone else is doing. And I thought, if I can make this car something special and featured in a car magazine that everyone was aspiring to be in, then maybe I can do something with this. And I chased that dream for a long time. And then literally 2 years after building this car, it happened. And that was the moment in my life where I started being part of this car culture, going to cruises.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt you. Tell me more about the car.
So the car, most of you guys, obviously, I know you've got a lot of American audience at the moment. It's a Fiat, which obviously you may know the brand Fiat, but it's a Fiat Cinquecento. So it's, if you imagine the Fiat 500 you have in the US right now, the really small dinky car, it's very similar to that, but it was called the Cinquecento, which is more of a boxy instead of curvy kind of shaped car. And I just saw it. It was so cheap to insure because back then I was at college and university, and I was working in like a grocery store, like a Walmart, on weekends and evenings to make some money while I was studying. And it was something ridiculous, like $25 a week, I think it was, to own this car brand new over like a 3-year contract. And I thought, well, my first car was a Vauxhall Nova, a really old car, which was like $800. It broke down everywhere, oil spills and all sorts. And when I saw this, I thought, wow, this is perfect. It's a cool little car. It's cheap to insure. And then I just thought I can customize this because it's unusual. And I love really small cars. There's just something about small cars that they're just so nimble. It's like a little go-kart driving. So I did whatever I could to customize this thing with twin exhaust to the back. I had like 14-inch wheels, which doesn't sound a lot to you guys in the US because you go for 18 and overs. But then I had all the interior retrimmed, and it was my goal to get it featured in this magazine called Max Power. And back then it was like the pinnacle magazine, like Hot Rod Magazine in the US or Super Street. And I remember this car cruise, which was huge one day. It was in my local town in North England, and this magazine was there, and there was thousands of cars on all the retail parks you can imagine. So envision a Walmart with thousands of cars from all over England that just concentrate themselves on this parking, because this Max Power was there and everyone wanted to picture their car. And I chased the photographer and the staff writer all night, and eventually took one shot. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, but 3 months later, they featured the article, and my car was there with the smallest picture. But that was like a big deal for me, because even my local area where I was getting bullied a lot as a kid. And they were saying, how the hell did you do that? We're so jealous. And like, but I went out of my way to chase this, and I did my car up and I would chase something. And then as time went on, I did the interior in such a way that the editor at the time went, oh my God, this is so different. We would definitely want to feature you. And I was just like, wow, I was in awe of the fact that he actually sent a photographer down and a staff writer, did the whole article, it was featured. And since that day, I was like, I'm going to make it my mission to get involved in clubs, communities, go to as many shows and car cruises as possible. And then, as fate has it, a friend of mine had a garage, and he tuned up these, what they call Renault 5 turbos. So in England, they're like a small pocket rocket vehicle, very powerful, 220, 50 brake horsepower. And they were like the iconic French hot hatch car they called, very speedy. And he had one with twin engines. So he had a 500 brake horsepower little mini car that would outdo a Lamborghini Diablo on the drag strip.
500 horse?
It's insane. It's incredible. This car just, it blew everything away in England. It was never done before to that level. And one day he said to me, I've been invited to a car show in the south of France. And I was like, oh, I've got family there. Whereabouts? And he said, oh, it's in this place called Cap d'Agde. And that was the town, like the town name. And I went, you're kidding me, right? Because that's where I grew up as a kid. And he went, well, hang on, you speak French, don't you? And I was like, well, yeah. He says, I'll pay your trip and you can be my translator for the whole weekend. And I was like, you're damn right. I'm going to take this opportunity, all paid for. I'm going to hang out with my family. I'm going to go car show on the beach, and we literally drove from North England with the car and the trailer, right from the north of England to the south of France, like a 24-hour drive through Paris, driving in the wrong direction at 3 in the morning, cars coming out. It's just completely crazy trip. And we landed at the car show, a brilliant weekend on the beach, as you can imagine, sunny like California. And there was a magazine there called Fast Car. And we started talking at dinner and everything. The next day, they're like, "My God, you speak French. I don't suppose you could try and translate it to get some of these guys, get some photo shoots for the magazine, to get some articles." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to say no." So for 2 days solid, I was working for these guys. I didn't expect it. And then after that, I was like, "How can I do this as a job?" And I said to the photographer, "How can I do this? Because I'm doing computer studies and business management at university, working at stacking shelves like at Walmart. This is my passion. I do this on weekends. What can I do?" And that's when he said, "I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll tag up as a team. I'll teach you how to write, because I didn't know how to write articles. I'll photograph, because back then it wasn't digital, it was film. So I hadn't a clue. I didn't know how to photograph back then at all or write properly." And says, "You go and search online." So before the likes of the Googles and everything else, I was on Yahoo and all these car forums and club websites to try and find people in France, in Switzerland, where I could speak French, to get some articles to this magazine. We predominantly would just do UK cars, English cars, because they didn't have anybody who could speak the translation of French. And then I found this guy in Geneva, Switzerland, who 5 or 6 vehicles, and he also had a friend with 2 custom Lamborghini Diablos. And I've never heard of custom Diablos back then. You're talking 2002, so 18 years ago. And he said, "Yeah, sure, come on over." So the photographer guy said, "Look, I'll pay the trip, and then when we make some money, 50-50, it'll be split both ways." So we flew out to Geneva. Fantastic 3 days. Loads of cool Alfa Romeo wagons. We had obviously Subaru Imprezas, all done up, really incredible stuff. Even a PT Cruiser of all things. We don't see them now. But this thing was so cool. It was hot rod style. It looked amazing for a car you wouldn't actually get to customize. And then, Lord and behold, that's where I ended up meeting Carmen. And she was a friend of the guy with the 2 Diablos. And we just started talking French and English in between. We just trying to work out how we could communicate because, half French and English. And it was that day then after that, obviously, we got together. There was just something there. But that was the start of our journey into making Superfly today. This is where it began, from going out there and going, wow, we can connect to people online. And then we can go out with this photographer and really just start to bring those French and these Europeans into the English car magazines, which Max Power were at the top of doing this. They had people in Japan, in the USA, but never they had somebody who had connections in the UK very well established, but also then had the language to bring people from Europe.
So you're saying on your first trip, basically your first actual time going, like bidding, paid to be a photographer, you met a beautiful girl, and then you got convinced her to marry you later on.
Yeah.
So you're just having like a dream trip, meet your dream girl. That sounds pretty awesome. I go with that.
I have to say it was, because where I grew up as a kid, it was probably one of the worst neighborhoods I could live in. It was not very good at all. It was rough as hell. I'd get beat up all the time. And because being French when I started, it was really difficult to get with some friends. That's why I kind of went into video games and cars, because that was like my getaway from all the bullying and the beating ups I had. I started learning boxing to give me confidence. So I started boxing since I was 10 years old. And then my mother was ill. She had cancer since I was the age of 6, a brain tumor. So I was looking after her with my dad. So for me, my escapism from all that wasn't that easy until I found video games and then cars. So this was for me like it was the first trip out of this really rough neighborhood. And I found for the first time in my life something that made me live. And I thought, this is my calling right now. This is it. And yeah, of course, my first trip, not only I landed in Switzerland, which is a beautiful country, some of these cars are incredible. And then, of course, I meet my wife now. And that was just like, it's like the package all in one. So I agree. So it was definitely a breath of fresh air for me back then.
See, and we're going to have her on in a few weeks. Is she going to tell us a different story? Be like, I saw this puppy dog of a guy. He just looks so rough. And...
Yeah, no, she's just like, I best be really good right now. No. No, that's how it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty awesome, man. That's really cool how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So I know that you've been from that point because I know like how you've been building Superfly, and like it's been amazing watching you guys grow. Because you guys are one of the first things I found on Facebook back in the
Cool.
day, like when I was looking for car culture stuff, looking for influences for how I was going to paint something or how I was going to do something. I was looking for the European influence, and on Facebook, you guys were just owning it back, and it was like, oh heck yeah! And I always loved your perspective. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It was the cars you selected because it wasn't what was the trend. You were taking pictures of cars that were off trend. Um,
mm.
what is it that you see that pulls you in?
Um, I think for me, it's the combination of things. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like almost a couple of combinations that work in hand. So it's a feeling I get. So when we go to car shows, it's a feeling I have when I see a car. So there's a feeling first, and also there's something that draws me in that car. So for us, it's the overall execution of the entire project, and it's about the wheels as much as the paint, as much as the body work, as much as the execution of the body work, and then obviously going around it and looking at what's inside. And even if some projects we come across who are not half, not really complete, there's just something that we can feel from it. We know that this individual, there's something right. I can't always explain it. People always ask me the same question. I'm like, it's the feeling I get from the car is just instant. I feel it in my gut and I feel it in my heart, and I instantly say to Carmen, I know this is something special, and I know when people see it and we show it, it will possibly go viral because it just each individual car has a specific feeling that you get from it, and I know everybody who looks at a car that is so impactful, no matter if you like the car or not, it gives each individual a different feeling. Whether it's wow, oh my god, that's crazy. That's oh, I don't like it, but you know what? I really do like it. Oh my god, look what he's just done here. Or some go into massive detail and to find out what it's about. But it's odd. It's just a feeling. It's so weird. I can never quite define it as much as I've just said now. It's more that I walk around, I see it, and instantly I just go for it.
See, and I
Anyway,
kind of I kind of describe the same thing. I like the story of the car. Like if you
yeah,
can tell if the part belongs and like it kind of goes with the symphony of the whole feeling of it, you know what I mean? And
I
the
agree.
things you want to stick out, you let them stick out as a
Yes.
builder. So that's me. I built quite a few cars like for editorial stuff, and you know how to shoot those angles. But it's neat with the new market, like in where everybody gets to choose. Where before it was the magazines choosing, now it's the marketplace is choosing, and you're almost the eyeball for the marketplace.
It's a
Which
good.
I find completely interesting that everybody kind of goes, "Oh, what's Tony looking at? What does he find neat?" You know?
No, no, it's true. I mean, yeah, before you're right, it is kind of the magazine that chooses. I mean, we do to some extent, um, but for us, it's we want to inspire people to look at projects and go, see what these guys have done or these girls. That's the way you want to go because we've been in the industry for, gosh, I mean, I started with the magazines, well, back 2002, but I was doing car culture stuff in sort of 1995 because I was consuming all the car magazines around the world. And after a while, you get to see what's been executed well and what hasn't quite hit the mark. And it's not that there's no disrespect to the person who may have not executed the car fully, but everyone can appreciate something that's been done really, really well. So I kind of honed in as well as to what isn't that great, what is incredible, and what is it that makes those ones not do it that great, and why is it the other guys see differently. And I know each individual one of us has an eye for things, and I know one of my talents in general, and that's why I think after practicing photography for a while, I've managed to have an eye for things. And I seem to have that with a lot of things in life, whether it's music, whether it's fashion, and I have the same with cars. So I trust my instinct that what I see in terms of how it's all come together, it's aesthetically pleasing. And so when we show that to other people, we hope that if they've may not have created a car in the past well, that after seeing those, they go, oh, that's where I need to go right instead of the way I've been doing it. It's no different to, say a boxing trainer who's teaching you how to box and you've been seeing YouTube videos, but then suddenly you're doing it with a coach, and instantly you go, oh, I see the difference now that I see from someone who's a professional than just a video. I understand, and now I can do it better. So we were trying to get people to look at the way it's done well, so they build it well. Because in England, you probably have the same in the US. We had a lot of problems from police authority, undrivable vehicles. There were things going over the top, and so then it gave the whole car culture such a bad name then businesses were being targeted by authority. They were losing business, and this stigma of you kind of the boy racer they called us back then, and you're just a nuisance to society. And Carmen and me were like, but we're not. We're just hobbyists. We're passionate car people. We build. We don't want to go out, hang out at parks and and talk cars and things like that. And it was just a minority that, okay, there's bad behavior. We don't condone that. Some happen to be that way. But there was just some people who just didn't quite do it. So I thought if we can maybe educate the right way, talk to builders, talk to the ones who know, show more of that. And eventually, then you would have thought that more and more people would be better at modifying cars. And I think that has been happening for the last 10 years because we have gone from building cars, not all of us, to in a good way, to now the quality of cars are really high in every culture. There's not many cars I look at now and go, they're really awful. Back 20 years ago, some of them were damn awful. But I think it's the times have changed, and education and more people sharing ideas like we are through social media, that we're enhancing what we do. I mean, society is no different. We're getting better in society in so many different ways. Some things we know, obviously, but a lot of us have evolved because of information sharing, because maybe interviews like you're pulling off today with me to share inspiration and different ideas. And that's what we try to do from the beginning, really.
Well, and you've nailed it right on the head, man. Like I love how you answer stuff. It's you. you're always overly complete. You know what I mean? You're like you tell the beginning, the why, and the how, and I love that about you. The right now in this COVID right now, I kind of know how like the rest of us are surviving, but as a photographer doing that kind of stuff, I know you've told me in the past how you're surviving, but like for content and being able to claim more content and stuff like that, what advice can you give to somebody that's trying to do what you're doing now, like a young photographer trying to get on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that? What advice can you give them to try and back up how to keep pushing with what they're doing in this scenario we're in?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And one of the things I've always had, and I said this to Carmen from a long time ago, and this I think is experience working for a digital for a car magazine, sorry, back in the early 2000s, is that when I worked for that magazine, I noticed that sometimes they wouldn't have a backlog of material and they'd be scrambling that month. And you probably know yourself because you work with some, for a cover car, or, oh, this guy pulled out last minute, shoot, we haven't got nothing. And there'd be this panic scramble. And I used to always think to myself, that's kind of crazy. Why do we have a backlog? The person can be happy enough that you photograph the vehicle, so there's nothing wrong with that. And then we have this, you're kind of thinking ahead of the game instead of them being back against the wall and then panicking. So when we started Superfly and photographing all these car magazines, what we used to do, and again, it's because not of experience, but then on top of us, we weren't that much in terms of what we were earning per month at our daily job. And what we did when we first started, I sold reluctantly the car that I had for years, the Fiat Cinquecento I mentioned, and I bought additional DSLR when they were really expensive, like 15, 16 years ago, and we were self-taught. And what it was is everybody could only do car shoots with us on weekends because they were working. So at weekends only. So you can't do Monday to Friday, can only do Saturday, Sunday. So we're like, okay, so we don't have much money for fuel, but we could potentially try and congregate several car shoots on a weekend. So our thinking pattern was like, what kind of location could we find where we can potentially in one spot shoot multiple cars? So that was number one. So that's avoids a lot of travel. And you can bring like 4 or 5 mates down and you have a day together, have something to eat, have some drinks, chat, do some shoots. Is a cool thing to have together to have. So that was fun. So over like a 2-day period on a weekend, which we did for 7 years, almost every weekend, we would shoot 5 or 6 cars, if not 10, pending the weather. I could probably shoot cars, and that was over time with experience of how to go on set, see the location. You could probably look at it and go, there's 5 locations right now. See where the sun is and place all the cars ready. And I would be shooting in between all the cars like this. And then what that allowed us is then building a backlog of content over years. And the thing that I also noticed with the internet is when social media came out, not everybody will see the same piece of content first. And so what happens is that I understood that people would reshare cars from the 80s, from the 70s. So what happens is no matter what content you shoot today, 5 years down the line, someone else may not have seen it. Just because it went on the internet today doesn't mean that the whole world has seen it. So I applied shooting as many cars on a weekend, and always knowing that this content will be evergreen, which means I can show it 5 years later and it'll still be relevant. All cars are relevant. We've got content we show now that's still 10 years old and it's still relevant today, because then we
Oh,
put it in front of them and they're like, I haven't seen that kind of car done like that before. Oh my God, that's a cool. Okay, cool. I can adapt that kind of modification. It's just like fashion. Trends come back around and they get remixed, like music, can be remixed with old 70s groove with something of today rap video. P. Diddy did that with Notorious B.I.G. years ago. They invented the remix they kept selling. So it's kind of applying that kind of philosophy with the content we shot. And then what would happen, I was always saying to Carmen, the more shoots we do on a weekend, the more we have to provide, not only to ourselves eventually, but to magazines who may come up to us and go, hey guys, we heard you guys around the world. What do you have? Well, we do need to go out to shoot today. We've got 25 cars we shot. Take your pick. So we would sell to multiple magazines in that way because we had a catalog of content. And we would also always respect the magazines of exclusivity in terms of the country, which is fine, which we understand. And then the other thing we would do as a photographer is go to events. And let's take SEMA show, for example, because a lot of your audience knows this, 4 days. We would think highly methodological. I can't even pronounce that. But very cleverly, as best as possible, to think, okay, how do we utilize those 4 days instead of just browsing? So we would obviously choose 1 day's networking, for example. 1 day will be check out the entire hall, take a few snaps, maybe a few Facebook lives, get a scope of what it is, and then the last 2 days, hammer as much of the cars that we know will work well for our audience and take as many pictures as possible. What would happen from this, not only we walk away with contacts for manufacturers, we would also have a hit list of maybe 50 cars to shoot over the next couple of years. We would also then have content for the show throughout the 4 days, and then potentially content to go on social media for 6 months, which would then lead rightfully until maybe the next SEMA show. So we would think about getting as much content from the show, which would last us. If ever, for whatever reason, take COVID as an example, we can't travel. So now, with COVID, we have 9 hard drives, external hard drives, with at least a few hundred cars we've shot over the last 15 odd years that we can now use and reutilize, and we have been because we haven't been traveling like we normally do, and loads of video that we shot as well, which we've remixed and re-uploaded because as a game over for us. Everyone's a photographer now. And I'm like, well, okay, everyone's got the potential to do videos now. Does it mean a film director is going to quit because YouTube's around? No, it's not. It's what you create from it. And so these guys got really fearful, thought, I can't do this anymore. What we saw was not really. We just means we're just going to use this platform to get out there. So we also then knew that, okay, we've got to embrace video. So we can't be a one-man show pony. As a photographer now, or any business entrepreneur, you've got to be able to be quite savvy in different areas. Because one of the things that we were told in the past is you can't be a jack of all trades, which I kind of get it. If you want to be an expert at one field, go to do that. But we've come into a place now where the entrepreneurship sector is actually requiring you to be almost a jack of all trades, not stating that you're going to be rubbish at each one, but there's got to be some form of mastery in certain areas. And then, like you said in a previous interview with me, was that you will then find someone who's so much better than you to then take over that role so you can scale in something else, 100%. So we adapted that as well as a photographer, so that we could actually be in a position to learn all these skills and not put ourselves in a position like these photographers who then eventually would just then disappear off the scene completely. And I was like, dudes, you're so talented. Why? It's just can't do it anymore. And that's not going to be us. But the driver for that reason, as well as all those skills for any photographer listening, is that it was a passion. Are you doing it for just money, or just because you think it's cool? Or is it because it's just a trend and you're going to hop out in a few years? So for us, the driver, it was our life. So that kept us going. And we thought we've got to find a way, even though Instagram's coming and everyone's getting all this car content out. And it's true, magazines are like, holy cow, we can't keep up. By the time we get a SEMA show, it's already been out on Instagram and everyone's seen it. So what's the point? So what we did was well, you got to get creative. You can remold yourself. You can remold the content, your photography, remix it, chop it up, and create content that people haven't seen. So when you combine all this as a photographer, there's no excuse, or as an entrepreneur, to quit or to not think ahead of the game. Because like with COVID, thank goodness we applied that mentality years ago. Because right now we'd be like, shit, what do we really use? And yes, of course, we're a media company, so we're also curating content, which is natural. So we go to people we know, like yourself, and we'll share what you've been building. Because at the end of the day, it shows what you guys are up to. It gives you an audience. We're sharing the love as a community and building that community. It's not just Carmen and me being photographers doing this. So for anybody watching, you have to really, hone your skills further, think ahead of the game, always think of creating content that's evergreen, always looking at the maximum opportunity wherever you are at an event or a place where you can shoot multiple angles where you'll only use 5, but you've got 25 left over, which you can then adapt a story to that later on and shoot video, and do it for the love, not for the money. Because eventually, if it's for that, you'll give up, you'll be bored. Whereas we haven't been earning so much money with Superfly at all. We've been doing other jobs on the side because we wanted to build for something greater than just making a paycheck on this.
And that's the other thing I love about you guys. You know what I mean? It's a passion for you guys. And that brings me to that Tony and Carmen channel you guys created. I love that one because you guys are always posting some real inspirational stuff. What was the drive behind that? Is it just to kind of share more positivity out there in the world? And
yeah, I think, well, for one, Carmen and I would never really the people in front of a camera. So that was quite a difficult thing to overcome. And then as we went on this journey where in 2014, as we said to you before, it was mid-June 2014, we just got fed up of working for our corporate jobs and we were sick and tired of life. We knew something more had to happen. We wanted to do Superfly full time and we sold everything we had. We'd been to a seminar, I think a year prior, called of Tony Robbins. I think maybe some of your listeners will know. He's kind of a motivational speaker, if you would like to call him that way. And he opened up our eyes to changing our mindset and living life to the full. And then that 6 months of June 2014 to December 2014, we sold everything we had apart from the suitcase, the laptops and cameras. And we decided to leave the UK to do a travel to bring Superfly into existence to the way where we could be with people. So meeting people like yourselves in the US, going to France and Germany. And for us, it was that journey of opening up, being vulnerable, looking at past journeys through life, things
now
that
think
hurt.
about how scary that actually is. You know what I mean? I did it myself, and like it's like pulling that ripcord, and it's like, am I gonna land? Am I not gonna land? How's this gonna hit? Because you sold everything. You know what I mean? To me, it's amazing because like I'm kind of on the same boat a lot of the time because it's like you just put yourself out there, and it's like, all right, is it gonna hit? Is it gonna miss? Like even like this new show, like is it gonna hit? Is it gonna miss? Honestly, I don't care. I'm having fun. I get to talk to my cool friends, and I get to find out cool stuff about them. But
Sure.
that's crazy being able just to, like if you step back in that moment when you did it, you know what I mean? You have all the confidence in the world, but you have that fear, but you don't let it hold you back. And it's an
Yeah,
exhilarating moment.
it's exhilarating. I mean, I was pissed off at first because I remember the morning I woke up about to go to work. I said to Carmen, I'm tired. I'm done. We've got to do something. And we went work late. We didn't care. The boss says, "Oh, how come you're late? Oh, traffic, whatever." And that night we said, right, tonight when we come back, we're going to form a plan, whatever it's going to be. And luckily, Carmen at the time went freelance from a corporate job, and because she was so sought after for a job, she made more money on site as freelance. And for me, I worked for my local government, and it was good because it was close to home, so I had a chance to do certain things in between my lunch breaks. And yeah, it was kind of liberating throughout the 6 months because when you sold stuff, there's something about getting rid of things like furniture it's freeing because you don't feel you're tied down to this old life. And we thought, well, we can always buy things back again. It doesn't matter. I even sold all my memorabilia of Sega video games and Nintendo Game Boy machines, which I had for years. And I was like, oh, it's so hard to get rid of because I love those things. But I thought, you know what? It's more important that we live a life and truly do something and we can buy it back. There's going to be people selling our stuff again. And then, yeah, when it came to leaving, we actually bought a ticket in advance. So there was no stepping back. We bought the plane ticket. We told everybody. So if we go back on our word now, it would just be shitty because we handed down our notice to our landlord. We handed a notice with a job. So there was no going back. If we did that, we'd be nowhere to live and no job. And so, yeah, when we left in December, it was quite liberating. It was we were shattered. We were so tired. It was 6 months hard work. I think Colin was more tired than me. what we did first is we said to our families in Germany and France, look, we're taking this big risk. This is what we're going to do. Is it cool because we want to hang out with you more anyway, because we never normally get to do that? And is it cool to stay with you now and again for a few months at a time, and then in between going back? And they're like, absolutely fine. So we're like, that's cool. So we had some kind of backup in a way. My sister was the same in English, said, not a problem. So we first landed in Germany to Carmen's family. And I think that's when it hit home. It's like, shit, we really did. It was almost like we escaped like a prison or something. It was just so weird. But we were so tired, and poor Carmen got a 6-week flu, which just knocked her for six because she was just so tired from working. And it was crazy because what we did also, we for a treat, we saved a bit of money to go to Japan. I always wanted to take Carmen to Japan because I did it in 2004 with the Fast Car magazine. We did the Fast and Furious cars. Big thing for me, never been. It was such an eye opener for me. And I thought, I've got to take Carmen one day. And we saved up, and in January we went to the Tokyo Auto Salon. It was our first, I think, holiday for 10 years, I think. We'd never had one. And it was like, wow, we're doing this. It just felt surreal, like you said. And then a few months sets in, and then it starts to settle in. They're like, oh shit, we've got only 6 months worth of money in the bank. Like, I think the equivalent to $10,000. And we're like, shit, we did our best to put all the least expenses per month and everything like that. But then it got scary, you're like, there's this fear every day while still doing Superfly, while still trying to build something else. Because at the time, we were also still learning marketing skills from this marketing company that we were part as an education to help us to learn marketing online. And then it was, I think, 4 months in that we didn't know what we can do with money. We were like, what are we going to do to bring some money in? And Lord and behold, it's just how fate happens, is that this marketing company that we work for, we'd done a bit of photography for them in England to some of these entrepreneurial events that were happening. And we started to meet different people around the world there and befriend some entrepreneurs. And the guy was saying, well, I'm starting these new brands. You've done so well on social media. Your Facebook is huge. Would you like to do the social media side for our business? And we're like, oh, okay. And we're going to get paid. And we're like, oh shit, we've never done this before. But we thought, this is money, man. I mean, we can't refuse this. And we're an opportunity. We're going to be teaching social media to people, which we never when we left, we didn't even expect this. We just thought, let's just ride the waves, just like you said, right? Just give it a go, see what happens, embrace the fear. But in that 6 months, we started to get accustomed to be fearful. It was so weird. It's like, you grind through it, but you're like, I'm used to this now, because when you go from paycheck to paycheck and then leave everything, you don't have a stable home. You're living in someone's house. Okay, it's family, but it's still not your home. You don't have the money that, you're feeling it's going to run out, and your mindset's not quite there yet. We're not fully entrepreneurs. We're still corporate-minded people. It's scary as shit. But that lifeline was immense for us because, and we did this then for 3 years with this company, which is amazing. But up until that point, it was scary, man. It was scary, very.
That to me, I love the whole story of how you guys have gotten to where you're at and where you're still at. You know what I mean? And with COVID going on, it's been so much harder to push. But I've been watching you guys grow your channels. Your new web page is getting there and amazing. And I've noticed a bunch of changes here and there. So I've been noticing you guys working in the background kind of everywhere, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that the journey in itself, it's coming up to, oh my God, tomorrow's the 5th of December. Okay, so it's 5 years tomorrow that we left England. 5 years tomorrow, 5th of December, 2014 to now. And 2020, am I talking right? No, 6 years. I know, 5 years, 6 years? I can't think. Well, 5, 6 years, but it's been a roller coaster ride, I can say, BJ. It's almost like we left and we had to literally peel our body away to find out who Carmen and I were at the core. Because when we left, we were quite, smart people. We think we're quite clever in some ways. We're quite smart in life, but holy shit, the amount of stuff of programmed childhood traumas to society programming that we started to notice in us that held us back in life was profound. And if we hadn't gone through obstacles that we'd face, like we would trace back going to family, where they would tell us things from the past when you were 10 years old, you wouldn't know. You're like, oh my God, now this makes sense. To clashing with family, to realizing truths you didn't know that were good or bad, to working with people who this organization we were for 3 years, as much as they were good and we made some good people, They didn't turn out to be the best people in the end. They were very narcissistic and very self-centered, but we'd learned a lot through that. But what it did, it almost confronted us with our enemies inside of what we'd suppressed for years we didn't realize we had. The fear of being accepted, the fear of actually noticing that you're good at something in your life, and that people have suppressed us in the past who said, oh, actually, you're good at this, but you're not good. And then we believed them and then never truly shined as Carmen or Tony. And I think that's a shame in life, because a lot of people do that because of jealousy. And all this came to us and we're like, oh my God, why are we having all this trauma? What's going on? Why are we having these people coming at us? But then we started to realize through all the spiritual work we did, through all the mind set work we did, through reading different kind of books about money, or reading different kind of books about entrepreneurialism, or how to persuade people when you talk in sales, to understanding spirituality, because I think not a lot of people understood that. And I think it's become more open about spirituality, how it's important in everyone's life. That I think started then to allow us to become Superfly and to the way we wanted, because Superfly should have been, in my eyes, 6 years ago, bigger than what it is today. And I started to realize that until Carmen and I could fully embrace who we truly are at the core, there's no chance in hell Superfly can become what it is. And when you see great entrepreneurs who do amazing things, I'm not going to name any at the moment because I can't think of any, but there's people out there who all of us are inspired by, whoever they are. I always used to look at them and think, how is it that these guys can make shit happen so quick? And how is it that some people can go through down and out and then rise to the top? And I just started to realize that it's not always the circumstances in terms of monetary circumstances. Yes, that can help, but it's a thing about their mind and willpower that allows them to break through. So take two families, for example. You can have one where, let's say, let's take 50 Cent, for example. I love his music. And, as a kid, he went through so many traumatic experiences. He lost his mom at such a young age, and drugs, and got shot. Yet through the adversity, he became one of the most successful rappers in history. And then you have some people who are born in wealth, who have it so easy. And some people say, oh, look, mommy and daddy paid for them. But when you look at that closely, you start to realize, but maybe they did. But imagine what made them go through to get the wealth and money. And maybe they taught them the right way to look at life and money. And that's why at 23, instead of 40, they're there faster than where most of us are at the age of 40. So when I started to look at these two comparisons, I was like, I can now understand how these people become wealthy, successful, and have a better life. And I started to step away from hatred, jealousy, which I didn't have too much of, but now and again I'll be looking, going, I would love to have that. Why is it that Superfly can't be at that level right now? Why don't we have 10 million followers? Why can't we make 6 figures a month? What is it that's holding us back? And I started to realize through all the work that I started to confront myself, honestly. Like, people have told you you're weak, you're insignificant, you're not good enough. That's shit, this, and this, all negativity, which then I just took on board and thought, yeah, okay, that's true. And after a while, you start to go, but that's not true. And you start to kick back. And that's when you start to open up a bit more.
And something I love how you're talking about the demons and stuff there. Sorry, I've been thinking about something there for a moment that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about the demons and the depression, like you didn't mention exactly, but the depression. And I know me and you have talked about it on the phone before, because you kind of helped me when I was, for those of you that don't know, I had a mental breakdown this summer, basically disappeared on a motorcycle for like 2-3 months and came back with a whole new business plan. And that's where I'm at again, is with that same moment of, I'm changing what I'm doing, and I'm going to go on a whole new dream. Because I decided that happiness was more important with going on adventures and building cars everywhere. So I'm kind of back in that beginning place where you're at. So I got a lot of those same feelings, and it's scary. It's kind of nerve wracking. Like even doing these lives right now, like I'm so looking forward to like talking to like you, talking to Carmen, talking to all my car friends, and going through like when they made the decision, like how they got there. And it's to me, it's so cool and so amazing, like hearing the actual story of how you get there. And it's the fear and pushing through the depression and having those people there for you.
Yeah.
You were so integral helping me through that. Like I would talk to you and you just point out some of the most awesome things, and I was like, dang it, he's right again. You know.
Well, I'm glad I can do that because I know what it's like to be at rock bottom. I know what it's like to be in that position. And I think a lot of us don't allow ourselves to actually be vulnerable in that space. I think we all feel we have to be hard. And yes, you've got to have strength, but I think a lot of people, when they see, especially people winning in life, whatever that looks like to them, relationships, financial, business, they just think they're born lucky. They see the end result and they think they've got it all. But because I wanted to find out more about how people became successful, watching the likes of Gary Vee, as you watch yourself, to even the likes of, let's just take, for example, the Jake and Paul Logan. There's two guys who are massive YouTubers. I was curious because people were like, oh, they condemned them and Gary Vee gets condemned and you got positivity towards him. And I'm like, I started to realize that even those people go through so many traumatic experiences that we don't even hear of. That I think sometimes we've got to step back and just realize that everyone hasn't got it figured out and we're all trying our best. And all we see at the end of the day is the final result. And many people probably look at us and think, oh, we loaded, we travel around the world, we did this, that, and the other, but they've got no clue. And that's fine. You know, they only see the end result. They don't realize that sometimes, you know, with COVID, for example, we probably had nowhere to live. We would literally be homeless, no hotels, no family to go to, no house sits, which is how we get around sometimes to stay around. We were like, we're gonna be on the street. We probably have to go to a YMCA or something. This is how desperate we got. But you know, our mindset was just, this is what we need to happen, and it happened. And we've made some good friends over time, and we appreciate them for helping us out. But if people was to be a bit more vulnerable and allowed to realize what it is in life that holds them back and actually love themselves more, they would actually have more breakthroughs faster than being resentful for the rest of their life and then always wondering why the hell they're here and what the hell is it that I can't be successful, because I've been through those motions. Why can't we get there with Superfly? Why is it not working? Why is that not working? And chipping away at researching, listening to people, you know, talking conversations like yourselves, you get revelations, and then you start to think, oh, I'm not alone in this world with the same problems. I'm not alone with the kind of things that's going on. And because not everybody talks about it freely enough, that's why people getting close. That's why there's a lot of depression. That's why, unfortunately, you get people who have suicide and things like that. And I think what you're doing with your show now is important. And with Tony and Carl Matthews, when going back to the point of the channel we had, it was about sharing what we'd gone through. We thought, okay, it's 5 years now, and we're going to do a lot more coming in January. We're now going to start sharing more about the ups and downs and the wins, and also anything that we've come across that might be of help to someone listening. Because we want it to be just authentic us. We're not going to show people a side of us that's not true just to make some money. We want to be authentic to make money, and we'll be transparent about that. And Superfly was the same for us. It was like, we want to be who we are for Superfly, not become, you know, eventually when we become big, because we have big aspirations for the brand, it will always be as we are. It will never become, oh, now it's a logo and we're not approachable. Because we don't like that. It's just like some corporations can work that way, but no, because it's our life. And that's how we will always be. So all our inspiration and everything we've gone through, we just want to now share it with people. Just hopefully it can help someone along.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. I actually love like reading some of your stuff, and like, because it's like you read it and you're like, hell yeah, like it makes you feel better because somebody else has gone through something, or you posted something inspirational a couple days ago that I read, and I was like, yeah, and it's just like, because I don't search Facebook much, and I have this certain list, like how you can get rid of the crap that you don't want to see, and you can put your favorites up. Like
Yeah.
I only keep positive stuff up on my list because I don't want to consume negativity. I'm done with that. You know what I mean? All the people that want to talk politics, if they talk politics, I hid their posts through Facebook. I was laughing. I was like, please talk politics. Almost dare me just so I can get you off my feed. I didn't
Yeah.
care if you're a friend that's a car guy or not. If your life is consumed with that crap, you're feeding it full of crap and bull crap, and you're not going to grow. And
Yeah.
like, it's about the music you bring in and about the things you consume that people don't realize what you're putting out. You know,
You're absolutely,
if you
you're so right. No, sorry.
if you're bringing in like dark music and stuff like that, like a band I love is Bliss and Esso from Australia.
Cool.
Um, they're an Australian kind of rap hip hop kind of thing, but it's always positive in their music. Even when they went through some negativity in their lives, they stayed to the positive. You know what I mean? And they rap about what they went through, and I love that, where you can consume where they're uplifting you. You know, and so many people will listen to music, and it's like talking down about this or down about that, and they're down in their lives, and they don't
Yeah.
realize like what's affecting them. And that's why I find it important to do podcasts like this, or to get the positivity out there, to try and get people to consume positive things and realize you can go through the darkness, but there's so much light out there to follow your dream. You know, you may never make it. You shoot for the stars, you land on the moon.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, especially now in this time, the amount of fear that's been created through the medias we've seen is the highest we've ever seen. You know, not only do we have a virus that's out there, not only that, but then you've got the whole world who's having the same problems. You've got the media adding more fuel to the fire. There's corruptions in government. It's just unprecedented. And it's like, even before that, we've just been taught to consume fear, because any kind of news broadcast we see, and in England it's the same. It's the same in France, same in Germany. We're no different than you guys in the USA, because we've had friends in the past saying, "Oh, it's easy for you when you can leave, the USA to go back to Europe. You don't have to have this kind of politician or person in power that you don't like." I'm like, you don't understand. Every country has the same kind of leadership. It doesn't matter if it's America, France, or Germany. The same corruption is there. The same agenda is there. It's just a different person. And so for us, what we notice over time is that the news, after all, like, it's interesting. How is it that the UK news in England shows 90% fear-based and unhappiness? And then at the end, oh, by the way, jolly bit of news. And you're like, but you're deflated by the time you get there. And so when you ram this down your throat every single day and you just consume by it, because it's addictive. We've been there. We've been there as well. So we know that. How can you have optimism when you go out in your day? When you leave the house, you go into traffic, everyone's got the same negative mind. You go to the office, what they talk about, the same bullshit stuff that's on television, which gets you more down. And then you go back home and it's consuming the same thing. And all you're happy for is the weekend and going to the bar, or your 2-week holiday in the Caribbean, or whatever you want to do. And I saw this early on, way before COVID, before we left. I had this always in my mind. I was like, I don't get it. I just don't get it, because I want to be a happy guy. I'm always, my whole demeanor is about being happy, fun, and if I see someone down, I always do my best to bring them up. And that shit didn't fly for me. That's why Superfly and the car stuff for me was like, I want to do that as a job. I don't want to sit in an office. I want to do car stuff every day. That's fun. And if I can make money from it, why not? And so when we have all this every single day, like you said, you've got to turn to the left and go, well, actually, on the left is actually better stuff to look at. And when you look at it, and I think this is what COVID's teaching a lot of us today, is there's a lot of good stuff in the world, and we're forgetting it because the bigger voice right now is owning the entire communication channel, even down to Facebook censorship, as you've all probably seen, and Instagram censorship and Twitter censorship. They're trying their goddamn best to censor any kind of positivity or any kind of truths that could allow you to actually critically think, because we haven't been taught to do that. It's one of the biggest things. Sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead. I just want to throw something out there. Have you ever thought about that the worst sickness is not actually the COVID, but actually the talking about the COVID?
100%. Carmen said it.
It's all in their heads, you know.
Totally. And Carmen said it to me best. Like, if you really think about this, we are co-creating the reality we live in. So to break that down for you, if you think about this, if everybody, so let's take the media, they're pushing out this agenda, and we're all here going and consuming that. Then you go home or with a partner, you hang out with friends when you can, obviously, and all you're doing is talking about it. So the conversation globally is purely based on what they're saying. So the energy you're spending is also on the same level. How can you let in any other type of thought if your mind is consistently in a fear-based thought, which is what they induce to you every day? So co-creation, when you start to understand the law of attraction, that it's as simple as, if you are focusing every day on negative stuff in your life, guess what? Your day's going to be shit. If you start to introduce something positive every day, a piece of music, you go to your favorite bar, you hang out with your friends, technically, if you have a laugh and everything, your day's going to be pretty good. So whilst we're now in a place where everyone's fearing, do they have a home, a job, food on the table? Will this virus get to me? How can everyone be positive right now? So thank goodness there's a lot of us who are actually going in this time and going, we're at a place where we can actually help people. If this had happened 5 years ago to us with the mindset we had, I think we'd have been okay, but maybe not as powerful as we are today because, yeah, it's been testing for us because we can't travel. We're stuck indoors. We're very active people. We love to socialize like yourself, and I'm sure many do. But because of the internal work we've done on our negative aspects of our past life and what we've gone through, we can see that perspective from a grander scale. So when we saw it, we stepped back and went, okay, let's step out from this fear of this virus, number one. What's going on? Why is it here? What's it causing us? And looking at it critically. And then what happens is you start to then I look at it from a perspective, actually, we're okay. Because most of us seen it and instantly it's like panic, 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 panic. I'm going to lose my job. I might die. My children might die. And so when you take that composed step back, yes, you're fearful. We've been fearful a little bit, can't deny it because we don't know what's going on. But it started just to make us realize that we can control the fear because they're just pumping it out to you. And because of the mass amount of corruption going on, it's also quite started questioning is like, what is truth? Because I can't deny there's a virus. Of course, there's something out there that naturally, but when you add everything up, you start to see there's something greater to the agenda of just a virus out in the world where they're trying their best to save humanity. There's something more going on, but from that point of view, it started allowing us control back because you start questioning. If you don't, you're left in the dark. If you don't ask questions, if you don't turn the light on, you're just walking around blind and you can't figure out what's going on. So when you step back from all the fear, you can then go, okay, let's see how we can make our life work. And like you said, find something positive every day. So you can't go out every day. So consume some music, maybe watch some of your favorite programs that make you laugh because laughing is the best medicine, they do say, and it's true. And then suddenly you start to find clarity. Because we, in the last 6 months, we wake up sometimes, we had the dark days of like, look at all this, the craziness that's saying on the news now and all the fighting going on in your country. Because now we've got a lot of friends over in America and like you and it's like all the stuff with the Black Lives Matter. It's like, what is going on? The turmoil is just unprecedented. And it's happening in Europe. It's happening in France. It's happening in England. It's like the whole world's going to drown to most people. But when you step back and see it for what it is, it's not. It's actually probably one of the biggest times of our awakening in life. And even Gary Vaynerchuk says it best. Is this going to be the year that you saw that was the worst year of your life? Or you're going to see it as the year that woke you the fuck up? And I'm glad that I can see it with Carmen that way. Because for us, yeah, we took a lot of hit financially. We had to use credit cards and stuff like that. And we were like, our clients disappeared. What the hell are we going to do now? Because we have marketing clients. But like you've seen on our channels, we started making moves.
It's something that Gary always says. He always says to watch what he's doing, not just consume his content. If you notice how Gary changed up and he got rid of the Gary V experience, and that's because he started buckling down because he's getting ready to buy something. He's been talking about it for years. This is the time to make a move. He's making a move right now. This is the time for all of us to make a move. If you want to make your move before TV turns into YouTube, before everybody makes the move from putting billions into commercials and pumping it into YouTube and everything and ruining that platform and everybody moving to the next, this is the moment that you need to start pushing to put these podcasts out. Because I know you've been putting out a new video series too. Because you had Sean on there. I loved watching it. That Excalibur is a bitch, and you guys had some, and that's we're trying to make those moves, and you're seeing it too. Because I'm seeing you guys in the action on it, just like we are, and it's really exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, at first we're like, what do we do? Because when you have limitations, whether it be financial or resources, you kind of go into yourself, go, how the hell can we make this work like this? But one of the skill sets we've had for a long time is that because we've never been blessed, with a lot of money because of our upbringing. In some ways, the way we were taught how money is, doesn't grow on trees. That we adapted skill sets to be able to make a lot out of nothing. That's why the whole ethos of creating so much content that we now is a blessing to us. That we have 7 or 8 years worth of content, which we can get so creative with it, which we're creating new things with it. It really helps us out. And so
that's the cool part about it. You're still grinding out with all the stuff you have, and like, you know what I mean. Even with even if you didn't have all that footage, I know for a fact, just knowing you and Carmen, you guys would probably still be getting groups together, and still be bringing like the one camera to the system, of like keeping the COVID stuff. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like to me, it's like you guys are always reinventing. Like, and that's another thing I love about you guys is you've always stayed positive in that. So, but continue on with what you're saying. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I don't mind. Whenever you have something, please, because I could probably go on for a while as well. So please come in and say what you want. But no, it's true. We try to be as positive as possible. We have our dark days, don't get me wrong, and we have to pick ourselves back up, but we don't allow it to stay there long. It's like if it's one day, it's done. We come back out and we go back into full swing, and we always remain as optimistic as possible. But we do a lot of mindset work. We go into meditations, we do affirmations, we try to be in a space where our energy is relaxed. We try not to consume too much of the social craziness. What we do in this time is we adapt the mindset of it's good to know about danger, but we don't consume it. So we want to know what's going on in the world, what's shifting, but then we're gone again. We're out, we don't consume it, and the day is literally in our little bubble. We do what we're doing, focus on the future. That's what we tend to do. And what Gary Vee is very good at doing is he's ahead of the curve when he looks at, how is the society moving? What's the next trend? And jumps onto that. But one of the biggest things I see now, as much as what he says now, and I agree, and he's been preaching it for a few years, you've got to get your brand on as many social platforms as possible because the attention span of everybody, there's so much more content to consume that if you're not on multiple platforms creating different pieces of content, people will not recognize your brand. So that's one of the biggest things we are now starting more than we've ever done before because we have a better strategy now. We can adapt that. But for him, and I think he's seen it for a while, and we've seen it for a while, is that we are coming into a time where I think everybody's got sick and tired of the greed that the 70s, 80s, and 90s produced in the world. It was all about money, 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 money. Now, yes, we all need money to survive. I totally agree. And there's nothing wrong with money. I was brought up to think money is bad, but it's not. It's just certain people who are corrupt use money in the wrong way, as we know. But what we are seeing is that people are tired of that BS and they want authenticity. I feel the biggest businesses that are going to succeed now are the ones who are authentic. They're just like you and me sitting here having a conversation and actually giving a crap about the person on the other side who leaves a comment, leaves a tweet. And Gary's been preaching that for years. But the more I see it, the way that the society is moving and life, that is becoming bigger and bigger of a voice. And that makes sense because if it means you can help society and people and make profits and live a healthy life and you can do that for others, that's how it should be. And a lot of us haven't. This is why a lot of people in this time now are suffering because of COVID, because of the greed of certain people. The money that people, and no offense, but the likes of Facebook and Amazon are earning billions during 3 months of the first month of the COVID. They don't need that money. In my eyes, I was like, if the world is truly in a position where we could all die of a virus, which we know now is not the case, then that money should be covering every single person so they don't have to go hungry, lose their job, and lose their home. But these guys don't do that because there's a different kind of plan on their side. And that's why we see now the authenticity of the true human form is what's going to happen. It's shifting now. It's huge. And thank goodness it's fucking happening.
Oh yeah, and I love what you were talking about there is authenticity. You know what I mean? I call it instead of pursuing money, I call it pursuing happiness. You know,
Absolutely.
and it's the mistake I've made so many times in the past. Like even as you chase the money, and it's like, oh, money will bring the happiness, and it's like it took me my best friend dying to realize that it doesn't. The money doesn't bring the happiness. It's happiness brings the happiness. Following your dreams, like that's where the happiness lies, and that's to me that's why I'm so excited about taking off the new adventure and going on adventures and building cars with my friends. There's hardly a chance in the world I'd get to spend time at a friend's shop, for weeks on end building a car with him and then move on to the next friend's shop and help build the car with him or even something like that. So to me, that's like, it's my dream, you know what I mean? To help a bunch of different people build a bunch of different cars instead of building one for me or one
Yeah.
for a customer, and to be able to share that with the world, and put a bunch of car guys on the road and have them smiling.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's what everyone's been missing. A few of us live that life, whether you're successful financially or you get to that point. But a lot of us, because we were told, with the industrialization of the world, it was like just getting work in the office and in the factory. Forget your dreams. Kids when they grow up, and we see it with our nephew, they see so much potential, so much dreaming. They see things we don't even see. They dream with their toys. They make up scenarios, And then all that's taken away from us. And then we're told we've got to be adults. Oh yeah, you've got to earn money, be responsible, get a house mortgage and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it's part of life, I get it. But then most people we meet at the age of 45, which is roughly where we are in terms of our age group, and they call them like, oh, you're having a midlife crisis. I'm like, that's not a midlife crisis. That's that person starting to realize that their dreams were taken away from them. It's not a midlife crisis, because I think that's a negative annotation for something. I think it's no, they've just realized, shit, what am I doing with my life? Why am I here? What's the purpose why I'm here? And the institutions who've done the education have done a really good job of making people feel insignificant. And it's all based on whether you get A, B, or C in your grades. I mean, not really. I've known people at school who got A grades who are now not doing very well in life. And I'm like, dude, what happened? And because they listened to a system and didn't truly follow their heart, and people told them what they should be. And the ones who don't are the artists, the creators who are brave enough to go out there. And even if they're not making a lot of money, and obviously right now we are in a position, if more education comes out, which it is, can teach them how to, they're the ones who are actually living a better life. Because there's some people who are multimillionaires who are sad as anything. They don't have a happy life, yet they've got a roof over their head, they've got the best food, best cars, and everything they can have, yet they're not happy. And because of that, a lot of us have just been stuck for a long time and not been able to dream. It's like dreaming to people is like, oh, you just head in the clouds. I'm like, I actually rather have my head in the clouds. But because we've been made to fear not putting money in the bank, to put food on the table, to have a roof over your head, people don't have time, because then you're going to work every day unless you love your job in a fear state. Whether you realize it or not, it's fucking true, because the next day you don't get your job or your paycheck, you're panicking because, oh, they're going to repossess my house. The bank account's going to close me. I can't feed my kids. That's shit. It's not a way to live. And what that causes, and we've done enough research on this because we've been in the same place before because it made us ill, is that our internal body language is constantly creating the stress hormone. And when we live in stress every day, it's been scientifically proven that it fucks your immune system, because stress should only be there for a boost, or if you're in danger, you can act and you can get out of danger. Right now, we live in a stress state consistently, which means every kind of thing in the body backfires. It's like putting the wrong oil in a car engine and thinking it's going to work. So putting cooking oil instead of your normal oil for your car engine to work. After a while, it'll run, but then it's just going to backfire on you. And so a lot of people, especially right now with the whole COVID thing, their stress levels now been duplicated with the fact that they now don't know if they're going to live because of the virus, the fear mongering the media's done, and potentially losing their jobs. And so how can you then live a proper life, dream and chase something that you did as a kid, if that's what you live all the time? And this, I think, the likes of the Gary Vaynerchuks and the likes of us who still struggle through the process are hopefully going to inspire the others to go and break through. And it doesn't mean you do like us and go quit a job and then leave with 6 months money. We did it calculatively. We did it smartly. We did it without having to fall on our back in a way that we wouldn't be able to cope. But it means, if it means on the weekend or in the evening doing something other than watching Netflix for hours on end and pursuing a passion, there's something that you love, that might take 3 years to get off the ground, but then in 3 years you go, I can replace my paycheck. And now you live a life on your own terms. That's cool. And I think it takes more people like us who show the truth of the journey, and not, hey, look at this, get rich quick, and you can make 10 grand a month on YouTube in a month. I'm like, yeah, but when you look at these dudes, they've been doing marketing for 20 years, so they can get that money in that time. And we've been through that, where people have been unfortunately tarnished of the dream. And so people then say, well, why should I bother? Because I just get shafted every time I try it. That's why Gary, for example, says longevity. Look at the long game. What if it takes you 5 years? Who cares? You've got time. You're 40 years old. I'm old. No, you're not. Right now, most people that we know have got a house, car, maybe a pension. We don't have all those three because we were never brought up with those. We didn't have the mindset to acquire them back then. But does that mean at the age of 41 or 45, Carmen and I are going to quit? A lot can happen in 6 months if you get the mind right. In 12 months,
that's the best part, is look at what you've built. Like, it's, it might be intellectual property on the internet, but you've created so much, and that will create so much more later as soon as, and that's what I love, is how it's grown, and you've created this machine,
This is it. And we had to think that way. And it was our life. It was a passion. And we always wanted to do a bit about the long term. We wanted to live our life doing this till we die. Meeting guys like you, hanging out, doing cool stuff, pictures, video, eating dinner with you guys, and just enjoying life. And if we can make some money from it, fantastic. But we always thought of the long game, and it was going to be something that was going to always be for us, no matter what was going to come our way. And despite all the traumas we've had, sometimes I look back and I think I'm quite surprised Superfly still exists, because throughout the journey we were with people who just abused us in terms of, oh yeah, you got all the connections, and then made out it was their business instead of being a collective team. To even Carmen and I broke up back in 2009. We didn't think we'd be together because of past things in our lives, but then we realized it was that, so we thought we'll get back and work on them. To losing lots of money, to family problems, so many things. And this is not a whining thing. This is at the time, of course, it's not great. But now we look back and we realize those had to happen. But through that, what kept us going was that we wanted this life of travel, meeting amazing people, cars obviously being a central point of that. And if we can live a life on our terms instead of being in this office where we just wither away thinking this is what I'm going to get my 401k, whatever, at the end of when I'm 75, is this all I'm going to do? And then at 75, probably not in a position to actually enjoy life and travel. That's why the risk was worth taking. It's like you either imprison yourself into a position where it's money related, or you just can't leave because of this, or you actually be brave enough to do a decision smartly that actually frees you up and actually start to live a life where you enjoy.
That's dude, you've nailed it right on the head. That's epic. I got a question like way off kilter for you.
Sure.
And I'll give you a little backstory before I'll actually pitch you the question, then I'll throw you the backstory. Do you think the definition of being a man has changed from the 50s, 60s, and 70s till now? And do you think it's a good thing to society? Because if you go back to the 50s, you got like the real mentality of like, man's man, men don't cry. To, like the 60s was the love children, 70s, and we were brought up to like, oh, that's stupid or this or that. Where now like guys can go out and be singers again, just like they were in the 50s. But it was, it's like, it's real funny. Like men will be like, oh, you're never going to sing. That's a girly thing to do. To where nowadays people are encouraging each other. Hey man, get out there and do it. And I'm finding it really interesting, and I'm curious of your answer on that, because it's like, to me, I'm watching it in the States and I'm seeing guys that I never knew that could sing or do something singing, and I'm seeing people that are finally coming out of their box because they've been at home all this time during COVID, and it's almost like allowed them to go, hey, I don't care what people think, I do this.
Yeah. Great question, actually, because it's something I think Carmen and I was discussing something similar to this maybe a couple of days ago. For me, what I've noticed is that I think male and female, way back, I can't really say how far back it's done, we've been placed into boxes and said that you're A and you're B. You're not A and B, you're A and B. That's it. And so we've taken that on. So the guy's got to be the tough guy. He's got to go out and, hunt the deer, come back and feed the family, the ladies at home doing all the chores and all that kind of stuff. Now, nothing wrong with having that kind of relationship. That works. That's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then I think it was a common date, so don't quote me on this, but maybe back in the maybe 50s, 60s in America, I think there was a big movement with women being not equal to men, and they were then pushed in front with marches and protests, and eventually then they were in the workforce. And then the kids went, then obviously the teachings that the mother would provide would then be provided to by the schools. And then the man was still that place. And there was almost then this kind of conflict that then the woman would come into the workforce and the male would then feel sort of like, oh my God, you can't be here. This is threatening to me, which is mental when you think of that in this day and age. And so that was happening for a while. And then, like you said, it's come to a point now where suddenly it's okay for men, in a sense, to be more feminine. And I don't mean that in wearing dresses like what you see right now. And it's more that you can actually cry, you can open up, you can talk to your friends about things. There's been a lot of things about how some men actually are more depressed than some women because they don't have that ability to talk easily because they've got a toughen up sort of mental attitude. And I think what's happening now is that because more of us are coming on these calls, for example, more of us are sharing that yeah, I'm like this, I'm like that. The guys are like starting to go, oh, I'm like that. So it's okay. A bit like when gay marriage or lesbian marriage, people are like, oh, there's lesbians or there's gay men who are getting together. It's like, oh my God, it's a taboo, but it's not. When you start to realize what you were at the core, and that's what's been hidden for a long time, when you realize you can accept who you are. So all these men like you're seeing right now are starting to go, I don't care now because this is who I am. I need to express myself, and you know what? It feels bloody good. And that just doesn't
Well,
mean you want to go and wear a dress or whatever else. There's a lot, I think, with what we see now in the media about this extreme push for these guys wearing dresses. Now, I've got no issue in people who want to cross dress. That's their prerogative. But I think the agenda behind that is pushing too much the feminine side to a level where it's not balanced. It's no different for the woman. We both have feminine and masculine sides. Women are no different. Women are starting to become more tougher. If you look back in history, there was women gladiators, warriors, just as men. But I think, were divided by certain people, whoever they were, to separate the strength that we have. Because I'm not being funny, in a man and woman together, the strength when things are right, fucking powerful. That's why you have this thing called power couples in the world. And so for men to come out more and be like, oh, I think it's fucking awesome, because there's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong in saying to your best buddy, you know what, I listen to Korn or Metallica, but do you know what, on a weekend when I go for a drive, I listen to Backstreet Boys in my car. it's a comparison that I was told before, because I listen to that kind of music. I mix it. I listen to that kind of music, and people are like, that's kind of weird, man. I'm like, not really, because I've got a sensitive side to myself. I've got a hard side to myself. I've got a dark side to myself. I've got a depressive side to myself. I've got a happy, high joy side to myself. And I think that's what's happening now, is that we are more open to seeing, oh, so I'm not alone. I can be a manly man. I can show more my feminine side. I can cry on camera. I can speak about vulnerable topics. And it's hard for some guys to go like that. Especially the older generation, people like our grandfathers, our parents, to go and sit there and talk about what we're talking right now. They'd have to have a few pints of beer, I think, to bring some of this stuff out, right? So thankfully, the internet has allowed us to show, and some have been brave enough to go, yeah, I'm still a tough guy, but I have a sensitive side to my nature. And maybe I do want to put cream on my face after I've shaved. Doesn't mean I'm pursuing gay, and there's nothing wrong with gay men. I mean, I'm not gay or anything. I've got nothing on. My uncle's gay, but I've got nothing wrong with that. It's their life. Why should I judge that? And if you want to put a bit of makeup or put, some nail varnish, some of the goth people in some of the goth bands have that. Does that mean that they are deemed as weird? No, that's just what they want to wear or what they want to do. So I think we're now coming into a time to answer your question, to round it off, is that I think more people are starting to want to become free of the labels they've been put onto them. I think that's in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it too. You said a lot of the same things I've been noticing. Like I'm one of those weird people who I've never cared what people care what to listen to. I'll go from listen to Aqua to listen to Backstreet Boys to listening to heavy metal, and the next thing you know, I'm listening to dubstep or who knows.
Yeah.
And I like being eclectic and kind of going through the different musics. And it's always funny to me when somebody comes in a hot rod shop and Backstreet Boys is like blaring, and they're
Yeah.
like, huh? It's like, whatever.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, I remember when we interviewed Mr. Cartoon, the tattoo artist in LA, and Esteban Oriol, the photographer. When we interviewed him, he said something very similar to that effect, and I thought that's spot on. And he was saying that sometimes we'll go cruising in the lowrider, and we'll put on things like the usual kind of rap, hip hop, but then sometimes we'll put on a flock of seagulls or Duran Duran because we just don't give a fuck. And I was like, that is just like so true. Like these guys, they got they're like some of the coolest guys you'll meet. They hang out with some of the toughest guys you'll ever meet, and yet they're cruising around in a lowrider, and suddenly they'll flick on Duran Duran, and probably the homies are like, "What?" But they don't care because they just love that. And some of their tunes are amazing anyway. And it's about being okay with who you are, whether you dress strange, you listen to odd eclectic mix of music like we do, or sometimes you just want to talk and be vulnerable. So what? Doesn't mean you're, as you would express, a pussy. You probably have that expression in America. We have the same here.
Oh yeah.
Being a wuss, you're not that. Just because you're like that, I think when you come across like that, it actually shows you're in tune with who you are, male or female.
Yeah, it's exactly you're dead on right. Like I don't know, I love being able to be myself and not being afraid to be who I am or any of that. And that's where I'm finding it more freeing now, where I almost was judging myself before others could judge me,
We
and
do.
now being able to just go, oh, I just don't care, like I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm following my dream. I gotta do what I gotta do. And I just don't care. Whatever happens along the way is what happens. And if I'm listening to this and you don't care, whatever. But if you like listening to it, come on with me. Let's have some fun. you
No,
know?
and it's the right attitude to have. What you're doing is exactly right, because I think too many of us are fearful of judgment. All of us do, and it's only because we want to be seen as something in society. We want to be seen as good. But I think if we opened up more and people started to see the true side of us, they'd be like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you were this fun, or you were this quirky, or that." And then suddenly, when that happens, it's amazing because it does happen. It's like it opens a whole new world to you. And what's ironic is you then attract the same people who are like you. So then you find your world's actually expanded, and you're not as alone as you thought you were. And then good shit happens more along the way. And because I've done the same comments and saying we've expressed our expressions, how we were dressed differently to try and hide, not speak our truth, agree with what they were told because you felt not strong enough to stand up and told them, what you were thinking. But then deep down inside, we just had an inner strength that was like, no, that's not right. Because you follow your gut and your heart. Sometimes you can tell if something's right or wrong. And eventually we couldn't hold it back. That's why I think these guys that you're mentioning that through this whole pandemic situation are now going, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to be me. And I think because now they will push so far against the wall and got nothing to lose, they've got everything to gain instead of nothing to lose now. It's just like, fuck it. If I keep stressing myself about what's going on tomorrow, what people think of me, how do you live? You might as well just be locked up in a jail. I mean, if you can't fully express who you are and people don't like you, tough. Like you said, that's your opinion. I don't have to agree with what you say just because you don't like what I say or what I post on social media or what t-shirt I'm wearing that day, or you may say I'm ugly. I mean, we've had that before on pictures. I'm like, so what? And Gary says it best, and I know we mentioned him a lot, but he is very much about empathy, and so are you. And he says, well, you have to start having empathy for people who are negative towards you. And I remember seeing a video where this kid, I think she was 12 years old, saying, how do you deal with people who are bullying me in the comments? And he was saying, you just got to look at them and step away and say, it's not you. It's them who's having a bad day. The reason you think it's you is because you have some form of insecurity. Once you can realize that it's not, and it's just them seeing you do something that they wish they could, that changes the whole game. It really does. And trying not to take it on board as a real kick in your teeth, because sometimes we've had it in comments of people saying, oh, that video was awful, the sound was crap, and like the time I'm like, yeah, the equipment broke. Oh, it's annoying, and it does annoy you, but try not to go back with a bit of an angry thing. Actually, sometimes some of these people come back and actually really, oh, cool, I'm glad I could help you, and good luck on your venture. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so not everybody does see me as this way. And it's your mind and your head of whatever you were taught as you were growing up that keeps you in this little cage of I can't express myself. So now I think, probably in the first time in the 5 years we've left England, only now I think in the last 3 months through the COVID, we've probably broke through a barrier where we're actually finally going to become who we are and not hide it anymore. And we're not serial killers or anything like that. I'm just saying that we are going to be who we really are at the core and just be ourselves. We're not perfect. We don't get things right. We go on lives like you, and we have the heebie-jeebies before we start having the lives. And sometimes I mess up in the morning when I do the intro because I'm half tired. But I don't take it on and kick myself up the ass about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, I fucked up. Big deal. I'll make it better tomorrow. And having that attitude every day, we feel better and freer and more happy.
Now, I got a question about something I recently been going through, or recently did. Well, I've done
Sure.
it a few times actually. I become my own failure. I'm so used to failing, and I fail on a grand stage usually. It's what I do. I go big, and then I call them failures, but they're always a success, but they're not where I wanted them to be. And and ever since then, I became my own fail. on things, like as I was executing this and as I was doing other things. But now that I can recognize it, I'm actually able to go back and fix it, and I'm trying to get away from being my own self failed. But have you ever found yourself lending to be that?
Yeah, massively, because I have big aspirations in my life. I see so much in my mind, and when I make mistakes, it really kicks me up the ass. It can sometimes knock me down, like from cloud nine right down to the rock bottom. And Carmen's been through many times when she's had to really kick me up the arse to really think in a different way, to see the light. And going back to one, I just thought of an instant. It was right at the beginning, before we even become photographers, when we were going to go all out to do pictures for magazines. After I'd left working for Fast Car magazine for a few years, sold our car, bought the equipment, and we weren't professional. We were just self-taught. I just watched photographers for years and thought, okay, I can do this. Or at least that's what I thought. And I did it, did some shots, sent them to a magazine, and the feedback was terrible. It was like, oh my God, it's like I'd killed the guy. It was just, it's too dark, it's all this. And I was just like, I'm quit. I can't do the photography, because when you don't do something when you do something for the first time, it's always difficult. After 3 months, you kind of get grips. But and because my self-esteem was so low back then, I really was going to quit. So we would have never made Superfly. We'd never be having this conversation today. But then Carmen was just like saying, no, it's just, you've got to look at it a different way. You've adapted this mindset because of an old mindset, which only led to this. So if you now do that and do it again, and the editor at the time said, look, just reshoot it and let's go from there. And the reshoot almost didn't happen. The guy was drunk the night before. He nearly didn't turn up. I waited 3 hours, eventually got through, and I was like, I can't believe this is my second chance and this is going to fail on me. He eventually managed to get him out of bed. We did the shoot and it just happened. So I try now to look at that as a way to go, even if I do something wrong now, it doesn't be perfect, to not kick myself so hard, because hey, every person who's professional now, no matter what you look, from an athlete to a singer, when you look back at their stuff, it was garbage. It wasn't great. You look at a comparison, like it was really bad. But what kept them going is like what you're doing. I fail forward. Every time. What did I do wrong? Like, okay, I can fix it this time, and just kept knowing that you hone your craft, because sometimes I want it to be perfect instantly. And I've in the past held things off because I thought it's got to be perfect, and I missed opportunities. So videography. I mean, we were doing YouTube 7 years ago, and I did a few videos and didn't do any more, but we were filming every day. And I would never put it out. Okay, it serves its purpose now, thankfully, because now I've looked at it as a positive and not dwelled on it too long to go, what an idiot. Because at first I was like, you idiot, you were right at the pinnacle of that. Like Facebook, that's why Facebook is big for us, because we jumped to the opportunity at the beginning when it started and it worked. So it's just like, you muppet, why didn't you do that? But your inside voice, like you said, was allowing me to fail, but not fail forward in the right direction. I was failing forward, but 2 steps back at the same time. I kept saying to Colin, 2 steps forwards, 3 steps back every time. Well, why is that? Because like, I wasn't always adapting what you're doing. Now I'm adapting more of that now, which is a perfect way to see it. And it's because you see the vision in your mind is so great that you almost falter before you start. It's crazy, because it's also like saying to somebody tomorrow, do you know you can make £1 million? They're like, yeah, whatever. Because in their circumstance now, it's like, I make $100 a month. How can I make $1 million? I just can't fill that gap. And so like what you're doing, you're saying, well, that's my big vision, and I'm going to chip away bit by bit. And yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm owning it. I know already. And if I do, big deal. And I try not to dwell on it. And guess what? When you look back 10 years, you're like, oh shit, I made it, because I allowed myself to fail. But really, what is failure? When you look at it, BJ, it's not failure. It's that it only becomes failure in my eyes when you have an expectation. It's more about learning, because if you're gonna, for example, I love boxing. I've trained for years, and you start boxing out with a trainer, you're not gonna punch properly. You're gonna strain your thumb. You're gonna bash your wrist. You're gonna get hit a few times around the head. But 3 months down the line, once you've started to hone that craft, you're gonna be able to block. You're gonna be able to punch properly. You're gonna be able to put power behind it. And it's the same with anything you do in life. It's having the perseverance to be able to realize from gate one, you're not going to be good. And then suddenly one day, it just goes like that.
See, dude. See, and that's why I love talking to you. You always hit like dead on the nail. You know what I mean? You know about the failure and everything like that. You're so deep that I always feel like
Yeah.
I just always like brush on the surface, and like a guy like you can like get in there, and it's like I'm sitting there here listening to what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, like almost like a rally call. Like, let's get at this, bitches.
I mean, I appreciate that, but I am deep. I am a deep person at the core, that I know, and it's been something quite hard to actually grasp. But to freely speak as I am now, that was never. I could never do it. It was bloody frightening to speak like this. I'm more comfortable now, but I think it's because of practice, like we just described it, of pushing myself to be on camera a bit more, trying to articulate my speech a bit better, because I would talk very fast and very low for a long time. So people were like, what the hell did you just say to me? So I've tried to breathe, take my time, stop being fearful on the camera, stop thinking about what people may think of me, my looks and my sound, my voice, whatever. And it's been chipping away at those things that allows me now to be a bit more open. And because I am quite a methodical person in what I do, I try to envision what the other person on the other side may be seeing and listening to what I say. So I try to give them that overfoot view and then hopefully get everything together to make sense. I don't always get it right, but it looks like I'm doing okay at the moment. So that's my thing, because I want to make sure that everyone who listens at least understands me, because sometimes in the past I would just go so quick I'd lose people. So yeah, so I've kind of owned it better, I think.
Oh, I love it, and that's why I think I love when you guys are doing videos because it seems like you guys are opening up more as it goes. And I know the more I do video, the more I've been opening up and talking more and realizing and stop being so self confident with or self whatever think worried.
Yes, no, I know exactly what you're saying, but no, you're doing fantastic, and that's all it is. It's if you think in life, we don't really ever, before YouTube's and that came along, stand in front of the camera unless you're an actor, a presenter. We just don't. You speak with your friends and family, but then you like put a camera in front and you're like, oh, same with people taking pictures of yourself. You're like, oh my God, don't take a picture of myself, because we're so unconfident of who we are. We don't like our looks, big ears, big nose, whatever, too fat, too thin. And then you're like, I sound awkward. No one's really put you in front of a camera and said, this is who you are, dude or dudette. This is who you are. You're gonna own that shit. We don't. And so when it comes in front of us, we're rabbits in a headlight. We just don't want to go out there. We don't want to be vulnerable, because I think vulnerability to some people, because of what they've gone through, it can hurt. And it's true. We've all been hurt in life. We've been vulnerable at some point, and that's just kicked us down on the ground. And it's unfortunate that some people can't get over that. And I think you will get hurt. You gotta be vulnerable, but you can't allow that person who did that to you stop you from being who you truly are. It just means that you've grown wiser and gone, oh, I see that some people I can be vulnerable with, but some people, unfortunately, are not the right people to do that with. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, in life, there's people that have different characteristics and mindsets that just are not in it for the two sides. They're in it for them, and they have a poor life too. So they just put you in a position where they make you feel rubbish. But you just can't allow it. You've got to fully express yourself now.
See, and I always feel like I had a face for radio, you know, because I
Oh,
did radio for quite a few years. And
and your
figured the face
voice.
is too much.
No, seriously, I was saying that to Carmen. You have an awesome voice as well, and it's perfect for radio. And now you've said that to me, I'm like, so we were right. He has done this kind of work, and it makes sense. You've got an awesome voice.
Oh, I
Seriously.
did. I did. I've done radio quite a few different stations in my life, off and on, and also lets me put out my wacky side, and nobody can ever like judge you. And that's what's
Yeah.
been fun about doing video now is because we kind of catch me in my goofy moments where I just like, because I make noises and growl and just do weird stuff all the time, and we're catching on video, and I'm like, I don't care.
Doesn't matter. Who cares? But this is it. I think the more we embrace being who we are, the stupid side and whatever, the more fun it begins. I mean, I can be a real stupid arse sometimes. I can do some off the cuff, so even Carmen's like, what the hell? But that's how I feel at the time. And I think it's free. You feel so much so much freer, if I can even get my English right. You really, really do. I mean, it's freaking liberating. because I can feel now how it feels when you can't be self-expressed because someone's told you you're ugly or you sound like a freak or whatever you've been told. It sucks, man. It really sucks because then you think everyone is like that, feeling the same way. You feel paranoid. Then you enclose yourself. You become an introvert and you never live a true life. And I've come across many people like that. I've been in that position too. Karma's been the same, so we know. But one thing we know is that, thank goodness, we have a humorous side to ourselves, us too. Doesn't matter how low we get, we'll have a humorous side because we know that's what needs to get you out of there. And we need people like this now to come forward. We need these conversations like you're doing right now. The more people hear this, the more hopefully we'll be able to see more incredible things happening in the world, because there is not the badness that we are being told today, that the world is falling apart, the people are bad. We're now more separated than ever because there's one side who wants to do the right thing or is deemed to do the right thing. The other side doesn't seem to be doing the right thing, whereas we're actually both sides trying to do the right thing. We're just being confused with mass media brainwashing, where it's just not true. We're now in a time where we should be really understanding. We're all trying to work this out together. And the more we open up, geez, man, the goodness in the world would be more abundant than what we have today. We think this is abundance? Hell no. We've been hiding the abundance because of our mind has been enclosed because of the nonsense we've been shown every day. This time now is where that shift happens. And it's happening every day, BJ. It's huge. You've gone through it. You went through a 3-month bullshit moment. You're now getting to a better place. We did it. End of last year, went 3 months as well, roughly, of depression. We kicked ourselves out of this. Then we luckily come onto this side of the 2020, and then the whole world collapses as we've been seeing. And we've determined to go, no, we want to live a freer life, not to be determined by the media, the politicians, the corrupt presidents and prime ministers of the world. No, if you really think about it, we as people, as individuals, whenever there's any crisis, what happens? We all come together. We don't separate as we are today. I remember when we went to California 2017, I think, or 18. There was a huge flood in Texas. Huge floods in Texas. And I remember Carmen and I were hanging out with our friends outside this bar, and we were speaking to this guy who was like, yeah, man, I took my boat, my pickup, and I went all the way down there with my buddies, and we were there for a week, and we helped people through the flood. And I was like, that's crazy cool, man. You've gone all the way, you stopped your job, you've gone out there to do that for people that are not even in your neighborhood. And that's how we work. We as humans, and it's not just in America, this is in England, this is in France, in Germany, everywhere, we're the same. And one thing, when we travel a lot, we see this. We see the news. We see how people act. And we're like, that's crazy, man. Everyone's the same. We speak different languages. But one thing we have in common is we actually want to work together. We don't want to divide. And now, this time right now, we are being divided more than ever because of an unfortunate agenda of huge monetary gain, huge population control. But what we should realize now is actually we're allowing a few to do that to the entire world. What the fuck is that about? That shouldn't be the case. We outnumber, and I'm not talking violence here. I'm just talking in terms of collectiveness and energy. We outnumber the few who decide what we should have good for our health. Seriously? No. You don't dictate to us what decides best for us at all. No, we as a collective do that. And if we start to think that way, none of the draconian measure they're trying to imply on us now would work. And we could decide, actually, no, we want abundance. Actually, homelessness shouldn't even exist anymore. Yes, we can clean up the planet, but do it as a human race, not by an organization that's actually led by all these high-end financial corporations who are corrupt as hell, who are telling us, well, we're the problem. You know, all this pollution, that's your problem. I'm like, well, let me get this straight. You're blaming society and humans for the problem we're causing. But think of this, who brainwashed us for so long? Not us. Who controls every kind of communication around the world? Why do you think people act a certain way? Because the food they eat is wrong. The bullshit they consume every single day. Most of us don't even realize we're like zombies going to work every day. And so when I see things like this, I'm like, no, we are actually so connected as humans. And part of Superfly was about that. When we traveled around, we wanted to see so many different cultures, and we realized, man, we're just the same. Japanese, Americans, Germans, French. We want the same. We want to be happy. We want to do cool stuff together. We want to share. If there's crisis, we want to share abundance. If people are having problems, we're going to go and help them. We're going to work together and build something. That is what's happening now. as much as the divide is here, we are having more people who are starting to go, no, hang on a sec. Why are we unhappy? Why are we depressed? Why are we stressed every day? Because we were told to by people in power, people in media. That doesn't make sense. That's not how it works, man. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, but I just thought it
Oh,
was
you're
relevant.
good. I loved it. You're thinking about a lot of the same things I was, because I was thinking about that before. I was talking to another one of my friends, actually from England, and we were talking about like how people respond normally to a tragedy. You know, how we all group together and people will come together to overcome it. And now that the whole world's in tragedy, it seems like nobody can come to anyone's rescue and everyone feels helpless. And that's
Yep.
where I think it's important in these times where if everyone feels helpless, will you be the positive note? You know, you be the positive thing talking about it. People are afraid to travel right now. I just got done with a motorcycle trip. I traveled very safely. Didn't get COVID actually until I got back to Kansas. You know, and it was I traveled all across the states, was safe. You know, wearing gloves, hand sanitizer, masks everywhere I was going. You know, and got tested quite a few times. You know, and it was you can travel in this, and that's why I'm looking to put empathy on the road to show how COVID's affected the U.S. from here, you know, all the way down to Florida, go all the way up everywhere, and just kind of look at how things are,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm excited about that because to me it'll be a fun perspective and a fun view to be able to see. Because we're gonna send. I don't know if I told you this. We're gonna be sending Doc, a guy who just got over cancer, on this safe COVID trip.
Awesome. That's
He's
amazing.
Oh yeah, he's written a bunch of books. He's a real intriguing guy. He helped develop a video game for about 20 years that was online. The game is still going. He has cancer, got over it. Guitar player, you know, and that's who we're going to put on the road and just have him tell stories and just, you know, like he's somebody I'd love to have you two get together. I think you
That'd be
guys could
amazing.
just hammer on forever.
That's cool, man. I think that's a great thing you're doing, and that's what you need. You need to show people these kind of things like what you're doing, because since this whole situation's happened, we've become cocooned and imprisoned in our own environments. And after a while, there's only so much your mind can consume. And if you have nothing else in your life to look forward to, which is what most people have because of the way they've been indoctrinated, then you're going crazy. And then, yeah, most people, they feared stepping out the front door because they said the boogeyman's around the corner. And it's not. Yes, there's a virus, but now the science has proven it's not as bad as it was. It's like a flu virus. Yes, there's a lot of vulnerable people that we're very sorry for their their loss for what's happened. But you can't imprison an entire planet to the point where actually the virus isn't killing. It's the depression. It's the homelessness. It's the lack of human connection that does this. And they know this. They know fully well this is what it does. And it's part of a bigger thing, which I'm not going to go too much into. I think a lot of people know this. There's a lot more afoot to what's been unveiled. But if people like us and others who are probably listening are brave enough to step out and show that they can still have fun, they can still care about people in ways like what you're going to do with this guy, or we start to push different things on social media, that is hopefully going to give others like, okay, well now I can step out of my house, I can travel, I can do this. Because we've read comments, we've seen posts from different articles that we read, and some of the comments, it's phenomenal. There's some people are really scared. They're like, they don't want to leave. Oh my god, I got to travel, but maybe I've got to take this vaccine now, and I don't really want to take it because I've heard all these safety problems, and they're not liable to if anything goes wrong, and but I can't live, I can't travel, can't go work, and it's like, that's crazy. It shouldn't even be that kind of conversation for people to have. You can't put people in that kind of position when, especially now, you got the survival rate is huge, and all you got to do is tell people, look after your body, get your immune system up, vitamin D, C, and all those kind of things. Whereas now we've been told we've got to get stabbed with this freaking needle. That's not a way to help society. And if it was really a deadly virus, in my eyes, you wouldn't have, like we see in England on the news, a comparison chart, almost like comparing features between an iPhone and a Samsung phone. What the fuck is that? This one's cheaper. Maybe we should go for that one. Excuse me, but if the whole world is in a virus state that which could be deadly, shouldn't that be discussed at all? It should be not about monetary gain. It should be about, we need to help everyone to be safe. So when all this stuff comes out, you can see why people are just like confused, scared, and don't know what to do. And so we have to stand up and go, we're still going to live. We're not going to allow this virus and whatever they decide is going to stop us to live. Shut down the gyms where people go and get, healthy. We've got our friend in California, self-made facilities got a gym, and they're trying to shut him down. He's like, we know our rules. We're trying to actually help people get healthy. We're teaching them how to do nutrition and all that. Not wait to get a cure of a vaccine, which could potentially harm people because we don't know the side effects. So
I've been making jokes about the COVID because it's actually been teaching Americans geography. They didn't realize there's a bunch of other countries out there.
do you know what? Do you know, as funny as that is, it's very true because, like I said to you earlier on, people thought when we would leave California, so we've got Donald Trump as our leader now. It's lucky for you. You're going back to another country. I'm like, you don't get it. Whatever happens in America affects the entire planet. You guys are the superpower. So whatever goes, we'll be talking to people in England, Germany, France, and everything. So, back then that's what it was. And I'm like, no, trust me. The world is bigger than just the US. I know you're huge, just like Australia is, but it's everywhere. There's more countries having the same things right now.
Oh man, when we were talking about your show coming up, a friend of mine, he was talking about where you were from because he watched one of the videos, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have that Scottish Irish guy on there," and I was like, "Scottish Irish," and he goes, "Scottish Irish British, all the same thing, right?" I was like, "No." Like,
Close, but not quite. Yeah, different accents. We speak English, but you can't understand some of them. But yeah,
they're in the same area.
yeah, it's close next
Yep.
door.
It just be, and I told him, I was like, you just can basically be okay if I called you a Canadian. He's like, no, not the same thing. I was like,
No,
a little bit.
it's funny. That's why I think it's good for people to travel more. When you travel more, you see things in such a different perspective. You see the world's actually the same as where you are back home, apart from a language or a slight cultural shift, but everything else we're the same. And it's important to see. I think it's important.
A lot of people don't realize, they think America is the only free country. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's the rest of, like 99%, like not, we'll say 90% of the world. There's a lot of countries that aren't, but there's most of the world's pretty free.
Yeah.
You know,
it is very true.
And that's where I try and press on people. They're so afraid to travel over to Europe. Like I always tell them, first place to go is Amsterdam. They're like, the place with the hookers and the drugs.
Yep, there you
And I'm
go.
like, it's like, you've never been there. It's like, it's the Dutch. They're really clean.
Yeah, they are very great. You can have marijuana at a coffee bar, but you can't pee on the street. If you pee on the street, you get arrested. I mean, that's what it is. But yeah, I think it's just because of news stories to get heard of like the worst side of countries, and then when you go there, you're like, actually, it's not that bad. It's like a small piece of that place. Like Los Angeles, people said all the violence and everything. You've seen what in the 90s and the riots, and you go there, I'm like, yeah, there's some parts of LA they're not great, but then so is in London. There's places I wouldn't go to in London, but doesn't make London a shithole. It's pretty cool.
Uh, I love Europe, but there's a reason I'm not in England. I don't fit in over there. I'm like
What
the opposite England person.
it's too rainy for you, isn't it? It's just not enough sun.
Too rainy, and like not all British people and I get along. Like there's a few, Sam Hart, a few others here and there, but for some reason I'm kind of rough around the edges, and the fact that I can't drive a really modified vehicle drives me nuts. Like everybody there is in these, you got your BMWs, your Audis, and everybody's just clean and perfect. And if you did one wild thing to your car there, I'd be in handcuffs.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I mean, being on the same side of you, but in England, we understand that, but we don't care. We still do it. So, but yeah, it's very gentlemanly. Well, to some degree, it's still like that, but I understand you. I mean, we love bits of here, but we love things about you guys in the US. You embrace a lot more positivity, even though in England we're quite reserved people. We're like, oh no, we can't clap and cheer a lot of people. Oh, that's just too strange for us. But you guys just go all in. You're like, yeah, this is cool, and it's cool. I mean, my cousin, when he left France, because he went to work in Silicon Valley, he creates apps for mobile phones, and he was saying it's so funny because like my boss, he celebrates everything. He could have like gone to the toilet and he comes back out, yeah, I just went to the loo, man, it's so good. He just found it so funny because in France and in Europe we just don't have that attitude of empowerment whenever something cool happens, and he just joked about that. But I think it's cool. It's infectious. I think we
Me
could
and
do
Jeff,
it.
me and Jeff were joking about this, and I noticed it a lot with people in Europe and a lot of with Australia. The celebrities that you guys get, when you get a celebrity and a celebrity gets really famous, it's awesome while they're getting famous because they're humble. But as soon as they realize they're famous, you guys will put them right back in their place. You,
Yes, our sense of humor, comedians can really do that to people. They don't mean it badly, but yeah, they like to joke in certain ways. Yes, we do have some programs like that. Very, very true.
and like you have, well, because and that's why I think like America's funny because Jeff's like, that's why everybody looks up to American celebrities because like they're just, you can't make fun of them, you can't do no wrong to them, but like in Europe and Australia, it's like you guys will turn around, they'll do something awesome, they'll just slam them. Like, what the fuck you thinking?
I
Like.
know our sense of humor in England, we do have an interesting sense of humor. I mean, most people probably recognize Monty Python from the back in the day. Obviously, that's the kind of British sense of humor we have. So yes, we are a funny bunch.
But I know we got to end this thing at some point. But I wanted to go over what do you want to throw out on here? Because I know you got the Tony and Carmen going on. You got your lives in the mornings.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, we're working on different projects right now. I mean, we've just redone two brand new print magazines. So we made some last year, but I think this year we've refined them a lot better. So we've got a couple of brand new issues, which I'll have in our possession by mid December. So we'll be showing that to people. I think it's important to have a bit of something tangible as well as digital content. And it's something that's like a limited edition, so people can collect it. There's only a few going to be printed. I think it's nice when you can collect kind of that memorabilia from car stuff. We have magazines we've collected for years and whatnot. So we're working on that. Like I say, we're doing the coffee talk lives every single week. We kind of used to do them on Saturdays where we bring people around the world like yourselves and show car projects and garages, especially when people can't travel. They just miss car shows. So we thought, hey, you know what, we're going to do that. We're going to connect to people and just really start to go more live. I think, gives us more confidence, starts to get to know with people we didn't have the opportunity to travel this year. So we do more of that, and I think we're just stepping up our game. I think we're going to probably do more content on different platforms now. We've definitely been exploring that lately, and yeah, we've got some big plans for the brand, which we'll keep obviously for us for now, and then we'll unveil them as necessary. But there's some big plans in the works, so that's what we're doing at the moment on Superfly with Tony and Carmen. From next month, we're going to start to talk more like we are. So there's going to be more video, like Carmen and me talking either together, conversations like we are having, or ourselves individually, and maybe bringing on some guests.
I think that'll be a real good one because it shows you and Carmen have a real cool dynamic together when you're chatting and talking. You guys get deep together. I think it'd be real enjoyable. That'd be an awesome one.
Cool. Well, we've been planning for a while, and I think now we feel it's right. So that's going to happen. And then I don't know. We want to see next year change in the way that everyone can be back in a more positive place around the world, that we can also travel again, that we can hang out with people like yourselves, come over to the US because we haven't been for a few years now, and just keeping a positive mind to see the future abundant, to not see it with limitations like we used to have, Carmen and I, because we still have fears sometimes, but I think we managing to conquer them. So for us, it's actually believing that Superfly will become what we've always envisioned, and now just all out, no matter what shit is going outside in that world. Because otherwise, you could quit tomorrow because of what's going on. And we're like, no, because there's always something tomorrow that could change the trajectory to make things better for everybody. And that's what we've got to concentrate on every day. So mindset, health, and just making Superfly become what it was meant to be 5 years ago.
Awesome, brother. There's one other thing I wanted to start working on now that I've got all these going on.
Cool.
I want to see if you could, you don't have to spout them out now, but think about it and send me a message later on. I want to get your top 5 motivating songs. They can be from now or later on. I'm going to create a Spotify playlist from all of my speakers that come on. And that way, when people want to tune in and they want to get motivated at work, they can kick those on and it'll be their top 5 motivators. And it'll be cool. Like yours plus the next guest plus the next guest. And eventually we have this eclectic, awesome, motivating playlist.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love my music. Music's a big motivator for me. Oh, I've got some kick-ass songs for you. Oh, yeah. I'll get them to you. 100%.
Awesome. And we'll share that across too. And you'll be able to share that over to your guys because maybe your audience wonders what you play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I do little Instagram stories where I put a picture of Snoop Dogg and I put one of these tracks from his Snoop Dogg album back in the '90s. So yeah, I'm all about music. I it gets me going. It gets me like in a good space. So yeah, 100% down for that.
You know, I'm looking forward to the next "This Is How We Roll" video too. We got the boom box and you're jamming down the street. You know, the
Oh,
one we
great.
opened up the video to. I love that one.
It's funny because when we started traveling years ago, I said to Carmen, wouldn't it be cool to do one in every country, the US, Japan, France? So yeah, it's probably going to happen. Now you've said it, yeah, it's got to be done. We just got to have a boombox we carry around everywhere. Yeah, but yeah,
Nowadays it's like an iPod, or not even an iPod. It's your
yeah,
phone.
it's just not the same feeling. It's like so small. You got to have that big meaty thing on your shoulder. That's like hardcore cool. It's like
I
probably
think I
Beastie
saw
Boys.
on the internet they got a boom box you like put your phone into and close it.
Oh, yeah, actually, it's called the Bump Box. We follow him on Instagram. He's quite cool, actually. I think he gets dressed up as well in a Star Trooper from Star Wars and goes around with this boom box. He looks pretty cool as hell. So yeah, I think that's why Bump Box. Yeah, it might be that one.
But it was great having you on, brother, and thank you so much for being my first guest. And you know, dude, it's just been great talking to you.
Mate, absolute pleasure. I'm humbled and appreciative that you've brought me on. Yeah, it's been awesome to speak. I hope that people can listen to this and from both what we've said today, there's something that can help them out a little bit. And yeah, really appreciate it. We're supporting what you're doing here, so anything you need from us, obviously always shout. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the other guests you have on, and we'll be tuning in for them. Awesome.
Well, we'll make sure when we clip this up too, we'll get the really good ones like the 1, 2, 3 minute clippers, and we'll get those over to you too. That way you can share them on your side, and
Sure.
because I know there's a lot of good tidbits in here.
100% love to do that. Be brilliant. And obviously your interview that we did will be coming out this month too, so I'll be letting you know when that comes out.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, sweet
I've been
man.
holding I've been holding things for a specific reason. Now the time's right, so it's good to go.
Oh, I'm excited.
Cool. Same here,
So,
brother.
but I will
Yeah.
chat with you later, brother. And thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and thanks to Cody for tuning in as well. And speak to you guys soon.
Yeah, Cody's over at the desk. You want to say hi,
Awesome.
Cody?
Cheers, Cody.
Oh, I guess there's a bunch of questions and stuff. People have been talking.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, whatever.
So
I'm
what do we
still.
got?
All right, so we got a Robert Glenn. He just loves this pussy all over. Keeps saying Christmas is around the corner. He loves what Tony's saying. He's saying
Said Robert Glenn was on there saying he loves how much stuff we got on there and loves Christmas.
Gene Everly said, "Love you, DJ. Looking forward to more like this."
We got any questions or anything, or
No questions.
just a bunch of people loving on you.
Cool. That's good. Well, I'm glad that while we're having a conversation, it's helping people. That's cool. And once you push this out after the live, there's gonna be more people seeing it after as well. So we'll push out. Yeah, it's good,
Yep.
man.
And I'll
Appreciate it.
make sure we'll get Carmen on there because I want to have her on the next couple weeks. I got Lee Giles coming on next week, and then I
Cool.
think Sam Hard just messaged me actually during this and gave me a thumbs up. Said, "Yeah, he's on for the week after." And you know me, I love my British guys.
Oh yeah, that sounds good, man. You have a good conversation with Sam. He's a good guy. He'll be good.
Oh, he's awesome. When I was down there. We did a little filming with him, and that was some fun.
Sweet.
So
That's cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing which other guests you have on. It's a good show, and I think I don't know how long we've been on. 2 hours now, I'm guessing.
yeah, almost
Roughly.
2 hours.
You know what? I think it's good. It almost reminds me like we do like a Joe Rogan where we're going for like 2 hours, 3 hours, and we just having great conversation. And I think it's good to have. It's like kind of like fly on the wall kind of conversation. I think people crave that kind of talk now. So good
Well,
stuff,
and that's
man.
what I was thinking. We'd turn it into is just something it's talking not just about cars, about life, about where we're at, and about the things we're trying to pursue. And like we covered so much today, it was great.
We did actually. It was good. I'm glad. I said a lot, which I didn't. I surprised myself actually. So I'm glad that we did. Thank you for bringing me on. And yeah, I can't
Oh,
wait till we
thank you,
get
brother. And if you
cool.
guys like everybody out there, go subscribe, like Superfly Autos. We got links everywhere. I'm still going to keep posting a bunch of Tony stuff out there because he's always amazing us with everything he does. And we
Thanks.
love you guys and thank you all.
Cool. Take care, buddy. We'll see you
Later,
soon.
Tony. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
DJ, got anything you want to say to